tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You can hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks. Definitely your online show right here as we get day two, pretty much on my own in studio. It has been one heck of a day, but I hope that, and I welcome all of you who have continued to support me and definitely tuning in here to get it live and direct on Sabrina Speaks. For you to join in on this show, you feel free to call in and participate. That's 936-8255, where your feedback is always welcome. Your opinion matters, and that is why this platform is here for you. It has been a pleasure so far, and I must say the feedback, the interaction has been amazing. And without you, this forum would not be possible. Oh, Miss Lucille. Yes, over there in the UK, she's a first to class, at least commenting today. And it is a pleasure. I hope you're feeling better. And definitely share the love out there. We're streaming live on cmrtv.com as well. And we're streaming on, of course, your Facebook, your Instagram pages. And now to the new streaming feature platform is Sabrina Speaks 12, also on YouTube and Facebook pages. So by all means, there is no short of keeping it locked, being informed, and definitely having ways of engaging and participating, and definitely giving us your perspective. So it is a pleasure to have you here with us and commenting, Miss Lucille, and it's good to see you. Definitely not going to miss anyone. But today's show, we have scheduled, and as I alluded to yesterday, and that, we're going to be speaking with Ted Green. Yes. I'm so excited to hear about and learn more about Ted as a local entrepreneur, a gentleman of the soil. I don't want to say boy of the soil, a gentleman of the soil who have broken barriers. And we'll definitely be hearing more from him as around 5:15, just building it up here for you. And I'm excited to hear what Ted definitely have to say, and for you to share with him his journey and get to learn more, and also convert that into sales, supporting our very own locals there. I know his products are available at Kirk Freeport, but I will not take the wind out of the sail. He also has his Facebook and website pages as well that you can actually go directly and buy it from him. But there's so much more in store. And as promised, I will engage in a conversation immediately after the conversation with Ted about how boards and councils are chosen from my perspective, my previous position there, and being a part of that process once upon a time. Yesterday, I know that it slipped me, and my humble apologies. I wanted to shout out belated birthday wishes to my friend and colleague, Franz Manderson, the Deputy Governor. Yes, he celebrated a birthday on Constitution Day. Yeah, so it's almost like they had a public holiday for him. Yeah. So just sending him birthday shout outs. It is, I hope that he lives to see many more. Hey, Miss Connie, welcome, welcome. And yeah, Jasara. I'm trying to still figure out this whole friend requests and stuff with the personal pages versus the Sabrina Speak pages. But definitely, I will get to those eventually, and so that you can follow me and as you're doing here right now. But it is a pleasure for your support. So we're going to hear more about Ted Green, sending birthday shout outs definitely to France on his Earth Strong. And yeah, let's see what we can give. There are excellent giveaways here as well coming up, but I just wanted to get into the groove of things. And there's so much in store, so much to learn. And there is a lot of very talented Caymanians amongst us. And I think that is something that needs to be highlighted, showcased just right here on your CMR TV family alone. The innovation, the ideas, all of the talent that is here. You have the founder of this very platform that is just definitely breaking barriers for how communication is, and this is something we have to be proud of as a Caymanian and Caymanians just supporting each other. But today is one of those days where we had in the headlines, as you know, welcome, Ms. Donette. It's great to have you here as our regulars on the show. Everyone is definitely welcomed, and interacting makes me feel definitely that I'm not alone. And I know I'm not, because you're there virtually. It looks like this is the way life is going to be. Hey, Marshall, how's the weather? How's the weather, Marshall? Welcome, welcome. And it's so good to see you. Thank you, Ms. Donnet, for the kind compliment. I tried. I hope people are seeing. Where is my friend? There is a friend who made some suggestions about the light yesterday. Let's see if he's going to pick it up today. I hope that you see an improvement as well today. However, the weather and the cloudiness has actually dissipated, and natural lighting has improved. But nevertheless, in this space, oh, it's hot over there? Amazing. No difference here. But this space has been improved. I am making improvements. And the next thing to tackle will definitely be, and I'm getting your feedback, is the window treatment. Yes, I'm going to deal with that, so it's more pleasing on the eye. But it definitely your suggestions are actually being heard. And I'm sure Ms. Lucille, Mr. Manderson will see that those birthday wishes from you. So we are definitely building this platform. I want to thank all of the viewers. Oh my God, it's amazing. The stats that are real. Thank you. Thank you so much. The stats are real. We're averaging at least what, and I'm quite sure this will prove itself on the other platforms, averaging about 10 to 15,000 views pretty much a day. Now, that speaks volumes in a sense where it says the conversations that are being had are sound. Obviously, you're interested in wanting to hear more, and you are welcome. Jim, welcome. And I'm happy that you're pleased. But yeah, with those views and your comments, it definitely makes the success of this show. And it sets a gauge for me as well, and it speaks volumes as a new way of interacting and definitely being involved with you, the listening audience, which is turning what you're accustomed to as TV into a total different space. Thank you so much for all the love, Hairstyle Scott, and definitely who's here? Present. Yeah, YouTuber 345. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As we build our viewership, definitely we're climbing, because we want to make sure that for all of our guests that we'll be showcasing here on the Sabrina Speaks, that those who may be just knocking off of work and don't want to get in trouble streaming us right now on their phone, that will soon be resolved. It is in the plans. We're definitely going to also be streaming live so that you can get us on radio, similar to what our morning show, Daybreak with Sandra. That's the CMR show with Sandra in the morning, who's also live streaming. You can hear her on radio. That is where we're going. So you will not have to miss a beat if you want to interact and participate live on this show. But there are lots of things going on. Definitely, as you can hear, there was a live press briefing today, and I know that Sandra will delve more as the information. The cold hard truth. Yes, what a mess. Daybreak. Are we calling something into existence here? But the cold hard truth in the morning with Sandra, that's going to be a similar platform that will be reflected by all of the other content creators here on CMR. TV.com, and you'll be able eventually to also hear what you're seeing also in radio. But like I said, lots have been going on in regards to, there was a 12 o'clock press briefing today talking about the minimum wage. And I know that Sandra will be covering that on her show more in detail tomorrow. And but we're keeping it to schedule as schedule here today. You wanted to hear more about how boards are actually selected and councils are actually put together. So, you know, we're going to make sure we're not going to take away from the time, because we're understanding you guys are getting more and more hungry for this show to be extended. And hi, Michelle, welcome. For this show to be extended to 7 p.m. But for right now, I'm going to be a good girl, and I'm going to end promptly to show discipline at 6:30. And yeah, so it has been very, very inspiring. I've been motivated a lot by the engagement, the support shown, and definitely as we continue to grow this space. So there's lots of things going on, and we don't want to take away from the product, the quality. And you can see each day we're making improvements and definitely showing you that we're listening to you and we're taking your suggestions and bringing it all home. But it is indeed, again, you're invited to participate in the conversations, 936-8255. I want you to weigh in. That's where it is more interactive, and it shows that we're living up to our name of making sure that you are a part of this community for sure. Yes, truth be told with Sabrina Speaks. Yes, you will only get the truth from me. Sometimes the truth hurts, but you know what? They can't say I'm this or I'm that. There's a, you know, it's either or. And you will always know my truth, and I will always bring it to you here, real and definitely upfront. So what I'm going to do right now to get us started, and I'm really, really, really excited to have as my guests on today's show, none other than our very own Mr. Ted Green, who I will invite into studio in a few, and I will definitely be engaging with him. We will be hearing all about his journey, getting to know him, and it's going to be a very good conversation. And I am looking so forward to all that Ted has to bring to the table. And even though, you know, we spoke at a different level in regards to this, I believe in authenticity, getting us to know about the background, how it all evolved and all of that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, he has gone to heights that I know many would never have seen. And it is indeed my honor today to have him as our second guest on my show, sharing us giving us some insights on how it all came. And here we are having our own with the fragrance on our shelves and making and cutting through all of the layers and making it on the international stage. So it is a pleasure for me to have Ted definitely here with us. And let me take my time and bring him into the studio. Here we go. Let's try this. I don't want to bring in the wrong person. Please forgive me. Give me a minute. I want to get my guest in studio. Here we go. There we go. There we go.
Oh.
Hi. I did it.
Hey,
I know you would be understanding. I know you would
What is this, day 2?
Yes, this is day 2, solo in here. I know Sandra creeped in the background yesterday, and I got to tell you the truth. She frightened me a little bit. She frightened me because I heard this thing in the background. But she left me alone today to do it, and I did it. I did it. But it's more an honor and a privilege to have you join me from wherever in the world you are. And I'm so excited to have you showcase your products, letting us know so much more about you as Ted, the individual, letting them know how Caymanian you are, yet is known on the international stage. And we may hear of Banana Orchid, She Blooms, that I featured here on Friday as a gift to Sandra. But there's so much more for you getting and people seeing this end product that it is just amazing how you have managed to actually break barriers and just let it happen. I mean, it's just amazing. And I'm so proud of you, Ted, that, I can't stop blushing. I had to say to your mom once, I said, if I were a little younger, I would have made a pass at him. And oh my God, did she put me in my place? So to this day, I says, I'm still coming at him. Yeah. But welcome to the Sabrina Speaks show. It is a pleasure to have you here. And we have all of our guests that are waiting and all of those who will tune in later on. Tell us, who's Ted?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Miss Sab.
It is a
Um,
pleasure.
who is Ted? This is one of those questions where they always ask you in an interview, and it's kind of like, who am I again?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm a boy of the soil. As you know, I come from, a quintessential Caymanian family, if you will.
Mhm.
Born and raised Georgetown all my life.
Yes.
Um, but I mean, as a person, I think I'm just a nice person. I'm a hardworking person. Um, I am a person who really believes that every person has the ability to make a change. And
Mhm.
so I just kind of live my life and everything that I do kind of in alignment with that, whether it's with my family, my friends, my business, my work. I just want to have a full life while I'm here.
All right. Now you are the class of what? What class are you?
I'm the class of 2004.
Wow. It must
Yeah.
be something now when your peers actually see where you are and you're doing it so silently, so gracefully that, until you actually follow you and look and see you on the spread of the What's Hot magazine, which, by the way, was in the middle of my living room. Every time I sit in the sofa, I just looked at you and I said, Joyce-Ann, Joyce-Ann, Joyce-Ann. But good for you for making the cover of one of our local magazines. And that again elevated it. What was that like for you?
I mean, it was surreal. So, we knew we had the article coming out in What's Hot, and there's obviously back and forth with the editors on that, but we legitimately did not know that they were going to make us the cover story
Wow.
until the day of release. And so the editor calls me up and she's like, "We have a surprise for you," and she sends it, and I'm like, "Me?" Like. It was amazing. I mean, it pretty much, throws your anonymity out of the window, of
Hmm.
course, because now
Yeah.
everywhere you go, they're like,
Everyone.
"Oh,
Yeah.
you're on the magazine. Yeah, I know you." So, I mean, it was great for business, but gone were the days where I could just kind of like pop in and out of Hurley's in my yard clothes. Uh,
Without a baseball cap.
without a baseball
Yeah.
cap. But no, it was surreal. I think for me too personally, you work and you're kind of chasing your passions and chasing your dreams.
Mhm.
And I think in the Caribbean we don't always historically have the best track record of, say, supporting product-based businesses.
Mhm.
And so there used to be, I think it's changed a lot over the past few years, but there definitely used to be, especially when I first started, this idea that, product-based businesses were less than your international counterparts.
Right.
And so for, a very respected local publication, the What's Hot, the thing that, everyone goes to and has and reads and all that, for them to kind of recognize where we've come to,
Mhm.
for that honor just meant everything to me.
Right. Now, how has it allowed you to remain humble? with all of this fanfare, somewhat, you are known as an icon and you're definitely building it, not only locally, but remaining humble, knowing what marks you're making on the international stage, because you were also interviewed over in Jamaica on a very prominent morning show. And for where, you are going with having your product, your fragrances, not only locally, but internationally, how have you remained grounded and humble with all of the success and attention?
I think, I mean, that's just my personality, and that's how I was raised. At the end of the day, we're just all people. I
Hmm.
think as a culture too, and this is one of the things that I really love about Caribbean culture, and one of the reasons why we're trying to, do our part to put it on the world stage is kind of that's just natural to us.
Right.
And so, yes, do you have your exceptions? Of course. But where in the world do you go that you're rubbing shoulders with a
Hmm.
sitting minister, and she's supporting you at your event, and you know all of these things that we just we
Right.
we have a way in
Yeah.
Caribbean culture, most of us,
Mhm.
to not let that kinds of stuff define us.
Correct.
And so I think I've had to do a better job at kind of recognizing our wins and our milestones and celebrating
Hmm.
those.
Right.
And but the humility part, and I mean, my mother, my family,
Oh, very much
uh
so.
our belief in God and in community, it's actually not a struggle at all. And the moment I start acting out, you can count on my family to be like,
Slow down.
like,
Slow down. Yeah, I know
yeah.
them. They
So
they kind of keep you tempered, keep
yeah,
you
yeah,
where
yeah, yeah. They keep you
you
rooted, right?
that's right, into all of that. Now, tell us a little bit about how this all became. How, I mean, okay, going back, let's take it back. You graduated from school. You
Yes.
pretty much worked your way and get your tertiary education, a professional qualification. But tell us how this whole entrepreneurial understanding, this goes back to your grandfather. And then obviously you've, anybody who knows Joyce Ann. But how did some kids actually see that entrepreneurial spirit in their own family and know that it's not a walk in the park? They're ups, they're downs, you know what comes with being an entrepreneur.
Oh yeah.
But what actually bit you to embrace that entrepreneurial spirit and just go for it?
So I think I was, as raised in a very entrepreneurial family. And I think also Cayman has always been very entrepreneurial. When you hear, my grandma talk about the stories of her time and how
Hmm.
the shipmen built the boats, then they sailed the boats, and then the women sit at home and they made
Yeah.
rope and they sold the rope, and we've always come, whether or not we thought about it in a commercial sense, is probably
Hmm.
transitioned over the years, but it's in our DNA. And so, I mean, I always tell people, my first business was selling candies to my schoolmates in primary school. And
Hmm.
so that entrepreneurial drive didn't ever leave. And I've always had some kind of business on the side.
Right.
um, I think, being born in the mid 80s, it was a sign of success for a lot of us to go and get a tertiary education, to
Hmm.
join the corporate world, to climb the ladder. And so I'd always been kind of one eye on that with certain aspirations and dreams there. But I always knew that at some point that blood in me would take over fully. Um, I think for me, the shoe switch when I was like, okay, I've done the corporate ladder, and I loved it, by the way. It's not like I did it as a, ball and chain. I love climbing the corporate ladder. And when I stopped enjoying a job, I changed. My friends often tease me like, "Oh, you don't keep a job for more than 5 years." I'm like, it's not that simple, but
Yeah, it's hard to explain if you're not on that artistic side, which you only realize way after, like yourself, you're immersed in it.
yeah. And so the idea for Ted Green though actually came in high school.
Hmm.
On my first official job, I was working in a souvenir shop, and I simply didn't see anything in the store that I thought really spoke to how beautiful and sophisticated our culture could be.
Right.
And so, you had all of the short glasses and the
Mm-hmm.
t-shirts and the all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
However, as I looked around, I wasn't inspired as I came on in to say, you know what, you're getting a real slice of us to take back with you.
Right.
And so the idea was actually planted in 2003. I actually started off, my first business was this DVD and book that I made that took you from one end of the island to the other end of the island, in a written form and in a video form.
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually doing very, very well. That became obsolete. People stopped reading, camera phones became a thing. And then I was like, okay, so what am I going to do that's really next level? And then that's kind of where the seed was planted to do a fragrance. It was actually a joke. So
Really?
it was
Well, it's a good joke
it
because
was
we're
a
wearing your fragrances. I'll never look at those fragrances the same again.
it was a complete. I mean, whoever wakes up and says, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be a fragrance designer," like
Exactly.
that doesn't happen,
They
right?
don't
And
teach you
so
that in high school. I'm quite sure that was not one of the options.
definitely not. Accountant, law, doctor.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so I was working full time and in school full time for most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided I was going to take a year off and have a real university experience. Went to Canada, and my one of my friends ended up actually cleaning perfume labs for a Canadian perfumer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as a joke, kind of in a group session, we were just kind of talking about what am I going to do when I get back to Cayman. It was like, well, maybe I'll do a fragrance.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, Miss Up, I just could not shake it.
Oh,
Like
wow.
it was said in jest,
Yeah.
but it really just kind of sung to my soul. And also, it presented me with a very hard problem to solve because remember now, my background is in accounting
Account. Yeah.
and finance.
Right.
And so I'm like,
You're going
what
to
I
weigh the
always had.
risk from the money side of things instead of looking at, yeah, that's how you guys are wired. And some people would call you cheap, but look at where it's gotten you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think any of my friends would call me cheap, but yeah, I get what you're saying. I just turned that side of the brain off frequently.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, but I mean, yeah. So that's kind of what happened. That's how I was inspired to kind of do something about our representation,
Mhm.
and where the idea germinated from.
All right. So, from a concept to being on the shelf, what is that journey like? Because we're enjoying, I'm quite sure you must have actually gone through a lot of testing in order to reach this point. What has that been like?
So
I see you very studious right here in this image. Tell us, this speaks a lot because this may show you at a particular point in your life, but I'm quite sure there have been a lot behind getting the ghost orchid, your she blooms, and perfecting that. How did it?
it is a
What's
lot.
that like?
I mean, for me, it was like a big adventure. So as I said, there was this big problem in my mind that I wanted to solve, that I had this burning to solve, and so I set out. And anything that I set out to do, I set out to do with a certain level of excellence. And
Mm-hmm.
so I knew that whatever I did, I wanted to do it on a scale where the end product did what it was supposed to do, which was
Right.
elevate our culture,
Mm-hmm.
and that it would be something that people would actually really enjoy and that would, stand the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
um, it took us 3 years
Oh,
from
wow.
idea
Mm-hmm.
to viable product. And so I started this end of 2006, early 2007, and we came to market in 2000, December 2010 with our first two fragrances.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was, I didn't wait until the end until I had an end product. I mean, this was way before the internet, all these things. So you actually had to go out and meet people. And it's so funny because the perfume industry is so small. I
Mm-hmm.
was flying all over the world, and all my friends are like, what are you doing? Like, we're not supposed to be doing that. And I'm like, well, I just got paid. I need to go meet this person in France. So I'm off. And I went, and so I ended up meeting people who understood scent creation, who understood how to translate a narrative into a fragrance, and who were really inspired by, I guess, one, my youth and me being kind of on this adventure. And this
Right.
was kind of before, or maybe just at the beginning, where kind of destination inspired fragrances were a thing. It was not a
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so I ended up actually meeting this group of French perfumers, and I mean, they were an amazing group. Actually, they typically
Wow.
wouldn't work on projects our size. They work
Mm-hmm.
for all the big brands, but they definitely were inspired by what we were doing, and so then we were back and forth. But at the same time, I was speaking to people that I know that I wanted to vend my fragrance. So
Mm-hmm.
in comes Kirk Freeport as our number one, luxury goods retailer in the region, and in Cayman. And I'm speaking with their buyers, I'm speaking with their staff, I'm getting them to try the stuff, I'm getting them to
Mm-hmm.
give me their feedback as well. Because at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, this has to represent us, right?
Of
And it
course.
has to be something that they think would sell. So you're trying
Right.
to solve two problems at the same
Same
time.
time. Mm-hmm.
By the time I launched in December 2010, we'd already built such a strong relationship. I literally didn't even have packaging. I went in to Kirk's. I had a bottle. I'm like, I have perfume, and they're
Uh-huh.
like, well, it needs a packaging. I'm like, if I can get that sorted, can I get it on the shelves? And they said, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And within a week, sourced all kinds of stuff locally. Art from Miss Nasaria Saku and Mr. Randy
Mm-hmm.
Saku. I sourced foam packaging from the foam plant in cardboard boxes, and we made it, beautiful. We put the perfume in it and we put it on the shelves. And my mom was on the streets selling door to door. So were me and some of my good friends. But then it sold out, and they called and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, "We need more," and we're like, "You only had it for like 2 days," and so we're like, "You're onto something," and so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So here we are right now, and I'm going to add back to the screen here. All of these fragrances, tell us what they are and how it's gotten from the first batch to where you are right now, and bang, she blooms. No one can't say that isn't my favorite. They're all my favorites, but it's what I find work for me. But here we are with a new line that was launched, as you alluded to earlier on.
So these are my babies. Hey guys, everyone good? Dad loves you. Um, and so what happened maybe around 5 or so years ago
Mhm,
is, 10 years in, we were like, okay, well, my business brain starts to kick in now. And
mhm,
so I'm like, well, this passion project has been doing well on the side with relatively no energy apart from, my love of creating fragrances and products. But I
right.
did no marketing, I did no real brand push, I did no anything that would be relevant to really expand or scale a brand at that time.
Mhm,
And so I started to have a deep dive into the brand to figure out, well, this is where the testing comes in. What is it that really worked? What did our customers really like? We already knew what made our scents special.
mhm,
Creating fragrances that were um, inspired by not just local flora, but also local stories, our
mhm.
narrative. And
Right.
then we use ingredients as well that really felt familiar to us in the actual notes of the fragrances.
Mhm.
And so we knew we had winning formulas, but now we had to package those formulas in packaging and stories that really resonated globally.
Right.
Right. And so now we're thinking, well, we had a really awesome local product. We knew it had the ability to scale. How do we get this, repackage this, whatever the magic is,
Mhm,
for international consumption?
mhm.
And so we actually removed several fragrances from the market. We focused on our namesake fragrance, which was Banana Orchid, what we launched with back in December 2010,
Right.
inspired by Cayman's national flower, the wild banana orchid. Basically the same formula from 2010,
Mhm.
but needed a little bit of a facelift, the cosmetic surgery.
Right, right.
And then we can't leave children alone. And so we're like, okay, so now we have to speak about other things that are important, other parts of nature, other parts of our culture and heritage. And so
Uh-huh.
here you have the Ghost Orchid series. Ghost Orchid was created in as an almost as a caricature of like the
Mhm,
Caribbean woman. It's inspired by one of the rarest blooms in the whole world,
mhm.
which is, your Caribbean person, your Caribbean woman in particular, personally, I have to say, I am a massive feminist. I really support women. I was raised pretty much almost exclusively by women.
Mm-hmm.
And they're my educators, they're my support systems, they're the people who believed in me when everyone thought that it was a pipe dream. And so our
Look at you
goals.
now. Look at you now.
Yeah, and so the Ghost Orchid is really representational of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ghost Orchid, because then all the women came knocking and they said, okay, like we love the fact that you did this for us, but you're gonna need to do something for my partner, because he keeps wearing my Ghost Orchid.
Interesting.
That yeah, and so I was like, I was working on something anyway, but I was like, okay, so it's time. It's
Right.
time. And then so similarly, we took a lot of the same kind of notes and inspiration we made Ghost Orchid for the
Mm-hmm.
gentleman. She Blooms is a rendition, if you will, of Banana Orchid. And so Banana
Mm,
Orchid was launched back in 2010, and I just feel like the story behind the Caribbean woman was very different back then.
mm-hmm.
I think for everything it stands for, it's still relevant, but I think that there's this additional layer now that exists
Right.
with women taking up space and having much bolder voices and being seen and being heard. And so She Blooms is actually inspired by Banana Orchid
Mm-hmm.
as a more kind of vivacious take on your Caribbean female.
Right. Well,
Um,
I must
no,
say, it is the packaging is amazing,
I mean, I
but
can look at you and see your She Blooms girly. I just see,
can't you
look at
tell? Can't you
your
tell? Can't you
your
tell?
your chain, your
Yes.
dress, yeah,
Yes.
everything,
Yes.
your
Honestly, I'm
personality.
unapologetic about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's
Now,
funny
Ted,
too.
sorry, I don't mean to cut you, but they're
No,
asking, one of our persons online is asking, what outlets can your fragrances be found in South Florida? I think now would be a good chance for you to just let all of those persons know how they can get your product. If you're not already going to Kirk Freeport here in the Cayman Islands, where can people get your product if they want to, to support and definitely get on this?
absolutely. So currently, outside of Cayman and Jamaica, we only sell via our website. So it's e-commerce based. They can order on our website and we will ship via FedEx.
Mhm.
We do have retailers coming on board this fall, but we're not at liberty to say whom just
As
yet.
yet? Okay, fair enough. Well, keep it
But
locked
once
right
we
here.
do,
Yeah,
anyone who's interested should definitely go to our website. If they
definitely.
haven't tried the fragrance, we're happy to send them samples. But also, they should sign up to our newsletter because once we coordinate the messaging of where we're located, they'll
Hmm.
be some of the first to know by being a part of that mailing list.
And definitely, more than like, well, not more than likely, we will be adding that link definitely here, and you can like and follow Ted Green if you want. You can share with them how they can follow you, Ted.
Sure. So you can follow our fragrance company, Ted Green, at Ted Green Fragrances on social media handles. What are we on? We're on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, Ted Green Fragrances.
Hmm.
And my personal is I am Ted Green.
I am Ted Green. Now, I attended an event, and like I said, that was amazing just seeing you coming out and the humility that was displayed right there. You spoke, I saw you grappled with actually speaking about yourself. And it's amazing because I was there as a then elected member of parliament, as you rightfully said, and there were other members of parliament there as well. Where do you think we're lacking, if any, in our society that could harness innovators no matter where you are in that developmental stage? Do you think there's a lot more that could be offered in our country that would be able to harness that ability and to get persons there?
Yeah. I do think it is something that to this day I struggle with it. I mean, I'm a pretty verse person. I can talk about just about anything. But the moment you say, "Tell me about you," who are you? And I'm like, oh
Yeah,
gosh,
that's
let's get
humility,
some.
though. That's humility.
Uh, yes, but I think it's to your point. And I love the question. We have to teach our young people in particular, or anyone who plans to operate on a global level, that it's okay.
Hmm.
I don't think we're lacking esteem or pride or any of those things. I just think that, going back to what you're saying, there is a humility with being Caymanian in particular as a part of the
Hmm.
wider Caribbean culture. And
Right.
I think as Caymanians, we have to take um inspiration from our brothers and sisters in the region who might be a bit more vocal,
Yeah.
and say it's okay to say, I did this, I did that. It should, yes, I agree, it shouldn't make you prideful or proud or think you're better than anybody else.
Hmm.
But you have to literally learn to speak about the things that you're good at, the things that you want to do, the things that you're
Exactly.
passionate about.
Hmm.
If you're going to open the right doors, or inspire
Hmm.
the right people to help you
Hmm.
along the way.
And here we are today, now able to walk into one of our big chains, duty-free stores here in the Cayman Islands. What was it like? How did that make you feel for these people to actually give you a chance? Because a lot of times, innovators need someone to just give them a chance. How supportive has that market been for you?
It's been incredibly supportive. I mean, um going back to the idea that we have to kind of get outside of ourselves and start to
Hmm.
speak about the things that move us.
Hmm.
Things don't happen by chance.
Correct.
And so I knew, as a business person, as a salesperson most of my life, that I had to get out there and speak with the people who could help me. Probably not a good, not probably not the best first conversation if the first time you speak to them is when you need help.
Hmm.
But if you can align yourself and be kind of strategic about how you're spending your time and who
Hmm.
you're meeting and who you're investing in and who's investing in you, I think it really does bode well for opening the doors that are to
Yeah.
your future.
Right.
How does it make me feel? Super proud. It also, to counteract something that I said earlier,
Hmm.
um, it also completely almost negates that. I think two things can be true. So I do think that there was a disconnect between really championing local products, physical
Hmm.
products, but at the same time, I've seen them a living testament to, when you put in the work, when you create those relationships, our local businesses really do champion your products.
Excellent. And kudos out to those who've given you a chance. That speaks
Absolutely.
volumes. Kudos to those who give you a chance. Um, well, callers are invited, so let's see what's on the other line. Good evening, caller. You're welcome to Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Well, good evening, Sabrina. Good evening, Ted.
Good evening.
I tell you what, this is my first time actually hearing him do an interview. And I was sitting here wondering, have you done interviews before?
I have.
Because okay, I've
There's humility
never,
again.
yes, I've never heard him do an interview. So I'm extremely engaged in the conversation
Hmm.
and I'm listening to it. And well done. I mean, this is really a perfect example of an entrepreneur, a young
Yeah.
entrepreneur who is doing amazing things and who has, really strategically put himself in a position that I don't think any other Caymanian has done in terms
No.
of fragrances.
Again, that's what we
Um,
say, breaking the status quo, breaking that glass ceiling, just going out there.
yes,
That takes a lot of gut and
absolutely.
grit.
So
Thank you.
congratulations. I
Thank you.
absolutely love it. And thank you to Sabrina for doing the highlights that you're doing this week because it's giving us an opportunity to really get to know some of the people who are in that space.
Definitely.
So I'm quite enjoying this interview.
Thank you. And that's what this space is about. And I give it a promise as I get off and we find our feet. Definitely, I will make it my business to showcase as much as our local talent. That's what this space is about: educating,
Mhm.
inform, putting you in the front, and show that it's not all loom and gloom. Here's one of ours that has made it huge on the international stage, and I am so proud of you, Ted. And I know there's much more to come because you're doing fragrances. Caller, sorry, are you done or are you just going to
Yeah, no,
us?
that's okay. I'm going to sit back and continue to listen.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
They're
thank you
also
too.
they're also candles as well. And I know that we got these is it diffusers? These
Yes.
tell us more. There's one thing about going to a fragrance store and buying the perfumes, but there's also candles and other items as well that carries the Ted Green brand. Tell us more about that.
Absolutely. And so our candles are under our fine fragrances line. So they're all other not candles or perfumes are under the fine fragrances line. They're all other perfumes. And but not everyone is a perfume person. And so
Right.
we didn't want to limit people who weren't perfume people to not being able to take back a little sliver of paradise.
Yes.
Right. And so candles and diffusers seem like a natural extension of the line.
Mm-hmm.
Same concepts apply. We source the highest quality ingredients, so you won't find any of those additives and parabens and all of these harmful
Right.
toxins that are in kind of mass market brands
Mm-hmm.
in anything that we do in any of our lines.
Mm-hmm.
They're really all aligned with kind of like healthy lifestyle, healthy living. But they're Caribbean themed, so each candle will have its unique scent profile that's really made to transport you to a certain type of vibe or feeling that's based in our culture and our experience.
Well, it's
So
the summer now. I smell mangoes.
and we have a mango and guava candle just for you. Summer fruit at its best.
You have me walking around out biting the air.
Well, a lot of people say that. Like they're like, well, every time I burn it, I get hungry. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that just means it's pretty good at capturing that olfactive profile.
Right.
Then,
Right.
if it's your feeding glands.
Well, how does it work now with you? Just some fun questions now. How do you choose fragrances for yourself, knowing the fact that you're in the industry? It must be what influences you? What really gets you going? Or you're constantly walking around with these testers just to hear people saying, what are you wearing? Not realizing you're in the lab.
So I will say I'm very guilty of that because I absolutely do wear everything that I'm testing. And if I wear it for 2 or 3 days and no one compliments it, then I just
Something
don't.
wrong.
I don't even bother. I
Mhm.
move on. Um, I think it's an interesting question though, because I don't typically wear other people's fragrances, but
Mm.
so that's just now. That's
No,
just
that's fine. You're in the business.
but I do choose my fragrances based on my mood or my feeling or what I feel to portray that day.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it's just like a thing that I use, I think, to like ground myself in
No.
whatever it is I'm trying to portray that day.
Right. Well, it's good for you because there's nowhere you could be making these fragrances and don't wear them yourself. So that's a good segue into taking this next call. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speak. What's on your mind with Ted Green?
On my mind. Good evening, Mr. Green. I don't know you, but you're doing a good job. And
Thank you.
my daughter loved all of your perfumes. She bought a whole bunch and take back to Florida. But let me give you a joke now.
Mm-hmm.
She got these two pet peeves, whatever, twins. Well, not twin, but I call them their twin, two sisters. But they all like, more or less what they like. Because, some people like sweet perfume, some like mild, but me, I like to be smell before you see me. I love long ones.
Mm-hmm.
So she chose two for them that she figured they would like because they both like different things. They're sisters, but they like different scents, right? Also her. So she chose one for each one of them, and then she chose one for herself. But the good thing is they had like what she took for them, but they had also like hers, so she ended up giving hers away too. So when she come back, no, she have to get. Or she told me that must get, but I'm not getting none yet.
Okay,
because
definitely Kirk Freethorn is the
and I
place to be.
always introduce them to us because that way we bought them Kirk Freethorn, and then they were telling me they make me put them on because they tells me that everything smells good on me. Even colognes that they spray on other people, they say that smells so terrible. Because I said, well, because I got good chemistry. Because from when I was working airport, Miss Billy, they used to call me to sample the stuff. And he said, boy, and then my boss, let me give you a good joke, because he only used to use Eternity. And I tell him, I say, that stinks, Eternity for men. I tell him, I say, but that's the closest you can get to Eternity because you like money too much. And then he tell me, well, everything smells good on you because that's because I stink. I say, no, and I stink. I say, that's why I got good chemistry. I say, but you jealous because that one smells terrible on you. That don't smell nice. I say, so you need to use something else. But why you using Eternity? And that's the only cologne he would buy, because when I buy him anything for Christmas, that's the only thing he used to say he had wrong. But keep the good work up, sir. I like all of them, and they spray everything on me. And even the man one smell good on me. I'll be getting mine, but when my daughter come back, she gonna be buying, and she took them to Florida.
There
They
we
were in
go.
Tampa. I don't know who else have them in Tampa, but the three. But she don't have none because I tell you she gave it hers. Those two girls have it. And then now their mom like it, so you'll be selling more.
There we go. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much,
much.
caller, for your support and the kind words. And definitely we're getting it out there. Ted, I think you saw one of the comments about it being available on eBay. That right now, for those who are just joining us here on Sabrina Speaks, that is only available if you're here in the Cayman Islands at Kirk Freeport stores, and over there in Jamaica. I think that's the only other destination in the region right now. Please, by all means, share how people can get it.
Yeah, so Kirk Freeport is probably your easiest local vendor, or La Visage. We also have it at in Jamaica at Bijou, or via our website, tedgreen.com. So it's tedgreen.com, and we do ship through North America.
Okay. Yeah, a very good question, because by my dear friend here, Jim, please have Ted explain or share how fragrance is supposed to be applied and worn. Far too many overdo it and put on too much. Now, I know when Sandra opened my gift to her, which was She Blooms, because I thought it was fitting with where Sandra is in her professional career. She's blooming. And when she opened the package and she sprayed it, I said, don't do this. And, please tell us and answer Jim's question for the sake of everyone who's in tune.
Oh, perfume enthusiasts will fight you over this question because everyone has their own take on how it should be done.
Yes.
I think classically, you apply perfume to your pulse points. And so perfume, especially eau de parfums, are higher. The more perfume all you have, you really need a little bit of that body heat so that fragrance can get to work. And so if you apply it to any of your pulse points, basically anywhere that has I don't like to put it close to my hands because you wash your hands all the time.
Correct.
But certainly on the inside of your elbows, behind your ears, on your little lower glands right here. I put some behind my knees if I'm wearing short pants sometimes.
Yep.
I know women who swear by putting it in your hair. And it really depends. So like Jim's preference is clearly not the I smell you coming, which is some people's they want you to smell them from around the corner. I think I'm much more like Jim, where I kind of want you to come within a few feet of me to be able to
Right.
smell
And
me.
not overbearing. Yeah.
Right. And so that really works for me. If you do like kind of a wider sillage, so that's what you can smell without, having to be up on the person. Probably scent layering is a good way to go to. And so if you have complementary fragrances, and a lot of our fragrances across our line are made to be layered. And so you love She Blooms, you can layer She
Yes.
Blooms with Banana Orchid.
Perfect.
I love Ghost Orchid. I love all my babies. Ghost Orchid, don't act out. But I will often layer Ghost Orchid with banana. Well, Banana Orchid just goes well with everything.
Everything.
And that's kind of by intention, that being kind of the foundation of where everything is going from. But a lot of
Smart.
them can layer.
Yeah. We have a caller, because I have some more questions, and this is so engaging. I know we've gone over, but right now it is just blowing up, and I want to keep you here just a tad bit longer before we go into some just one or two more fun questions. But caller, you're live. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks, and what's on your mind for Ted Green?
Hi, good evening, Auntie Sabrina.
Hi.
Good evening, Ted.
Good evening.
Ted, I'm listening to you speak about your entrepreneurial journey, right? And I couldn't help but think, there's so many brilliant ideas quietly buzzing in the minds of people in our community, right?
Mm-hmm.
People who may not see themselves as quote unquote entrepreneurs because they either lack confidence or formal business knowledge or business acumen. What would you say to that person sitting on a gold mine of an idea, but unsure if they're enough, quote unquote, to bring it to life? How did you bridge that gap between the idea and action? I mean, you kind of touched on that a little bit. But along the way, what were some of the biggest pitfalls in your own journey? How did you tackle those head on?
Yeah.
You weren't discouraged, throwing the towel, that kind of thing.
Well, thanks for your question, Jim. I think the first thing I'll start by saying is, not everyone is made out for entrepreneurship. I think, entrepreneurship is glamorized, but it's a very, very tough uphill climb. um, there's a lot of pros that come with entrepreneurship, and having transitioned from a 19-year career in finance that I loved to being a full-time entrepreneur now, which I also love. I can definitely say probably not going back anytime soon. But it is something to just be live to, that not everyone might want to sign up or be capable of signing up, depending on what's happening in their life for that journey. I think for someone though who's sitting on a gold mine of an idea, and they know, and they have that itching in their stomach that they just need something done with it, finding a strategic partner is probably a good option. Someone that they can split that role with. Obviously, we have things to talk about like trust and ownership and all of those things, but for the sake of getting that idea out of your head and into the market where it can change other people's lives, probably change your life, probably worth going down that route. Kind of less common but also doable. If you can package that idea as a whole executable concept, you can sell it. And you can just sell it to someone else, whether it be for a cash out payment or some kind of royalties if things kick off. I mean, depending on what it is, there's all kinds of things that can happen. But I definitely agree with seeing it through if you have it in your head. I also think though that you need to develop the idea. And so just from sometimes, we have this little seed of an idea in our head and we know it's a good idea, but we actually haven't fleshed it out. A lot of the times too, we might think, oh, it's too big, it can't be done. Or, I don't have the time to do it. But as you flesh it out and you start to, be creative with your own ideas, you start to develop pathways forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think sometimes people sit on ideas without actually working on them, which is probably where the idea goes to die, right? But if you start to work on it, then sometimes things that you thought might not be possible are, and or you create a full product that you can either partner or sell.
Does that answer your
Well,
question, caller?
part of it, I wanted to hear more of like what were some of the pitfalls you came across, and you. I'm sure there were times when you felt discouraged, but you just kind of pressed on. Like, what if you can give us an example of what those pitfalls were like, and how did you push past them?
Yeah. So a lot of pitfalls. I'm operating in an industry that doesn't really have a space for me. And so there's a lot more objections and unknowns. It took 4 years of literally knocking on the door because I've changed suppliers 2 years ago. Of just knocking on the door of the same company and being like, I know you only work with super billion-dollar brands, but I really need to work with you because I have this great project. I think discipline is probably your best method to overcome kind of any kind of internal setbacks. Me personally, I employ a 3 thing a day rule. And so every day I have one big thing and two small things that I check off of my list. I try to get through a lot more, but there's just some days that I just say, if I can just check these off today, I'm happy with myself. Um, and so I think just kind of employing discipline is your best way. I think for me also, um, patience. I think a lot of times, me personally, I like things now. I'm action oriented. I'm solution oriented, and so I've had to personally learn that not everything happens in my time,
Mhm.
and kind of use my patience and work through things. Some of the pitfalls that have happened to me are, I've spent lots of time, energy, money working on special projects that haven't come through. Um, you know, we've started marketing, tried different marketing programs and tactics, some that worked, some didn't work. Financing in this industry is always a limitation. We don't really have a ecosystem of like grants and accelerators that are readily accessible to most of us, being non-North American or European or Asian based. And so figuring out how to do things on a global level, on a budget, has been
Mhm.
a major obstacle of mine. But honestly, I think every obstacle that we've learned from and or we've overcome has made the company much, much stronger. And so one of the things that I often get, in speaking with buyers and potential investors and all kinds of different conversations we're having right now is, how big is your team? And I go, well, it's just three core people. Then we have X vendors and whatever that we use, and they're always like stunned, and they're like, well, how did you do all this with just three people? And I was like, well, I only hired the last two like a year ago.
Again, it takes time to build. So, Colin,
Yeah.
so much for your contribution.
All
I'm
right.
going to ask you to leave us there, please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
participating. Now, Ted, this has gone on much longer, but it just shows how interested people are. But what do you do to enjoy? What do you enjoy doing outside of the fragrance world? How do you, is there ever a switch off as an entrepreneur?
There's never a switch off. I swear there's literally never a switch off in my head. There's always something percolating about Ted Green and what we're doing to move the needle.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the fragrance world, I love traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, those two things coincide.
Mm-hmm.
I love me time. Some of my best like inspiration and ideas just come from me being in my own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But don't get it twisted. I also like to go with my friends and turn up.
Of
So,
course, of course. Who doesn't? We're human.
and so, I think for me, outside of fragrance, I'm just trying to build a more rounded life because it
Right.
can become all consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And so, making sure I make time for my friends and family, making sure
And
that I,
that's
maintain my hobbies.
it's all a
Uh,
balance. All a
yeah.
balance. Well, Ted, it has indeed been an honor speaking with you this evening right here on Sabrina Speaks as my second official guest here on this platform. And I know that the sky's the limit for you. I am looking for great things for you in the future. And, right here, we will continue to highlight and showcase all of our local entrepreneurs, get to know more from the back end, but you continue to rock. You continue to not only make yourself proud, but also we are proud here as a family to showcase one of our own Caymanians that have broken the glass ceiling and have shown that it is a dream. The dream doesn't have to be a dream. It can be a reality. And kudos to you. God bless you. The support and family, the support from your family and friends, and just that ability for you to just be you in the real and stay grounded to who you are. It has been a pleasure. Any parting words you would like to leave with us?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Miss Sabrina. This has been a pleasure. I'm honored to be your second guest. May your show continue to
Thank
highlight
you.
Caymanians. I want to thank CMR and Sandra Catron for all of the work that you all do. It is important, and platforms like this for entrepreneurs like me, and to let people know what we're doing and to get excited about our projects, really does move the needle for all of us. As a people, as a business, as a society. And so just wanted my parting words or thank you. Fragrance is life. And
You can't help yourself, but
I
look, we want you
I
to
can
pop on down
fragrance
and go
is
buy
life.
all of them, including the candles and everything else that you have in store. But yes,
No, thank you so much. I appreciate you all.
it has been a pleasure and an honor to have you here. And again, I'm looking for great things to come at the
All
end.
right. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye bye.
Sure. Well, there you have it. Right, all of the persons, I want to thank you for tuning in and showing your love and support for one of our very own. It is amazing that we can have one of our own right here in Cayman that just actually does so well, despite all of the challenges, despite having all of the setbacks that they're there. We do not, and I've said that right here on this forum in the first week that I spoke. That I came to you, that we lack an innovation to harness, to gather, because it's here. We just need to create more of that space. And I hope that all the persons who are tuned in and who will actually be seeing this podcast, that they are motivated, inspired, and those persons who are definitely in the positions to make a difference can actually create and give more access to be able for us to have more entrepreneurs here in the Cayman Islands. But again, feel free, all of the feedback that we've gotten on social media from our YouTube channels as well. We want to thank you for that. I know Ted will go back and share this and he will review it. But I think he did an excellent job, and probably many of you didn't even know so much about this gentleman, but I can assure you, as a person who uses products, not just for this podcast, but genuinely, sincerely love his products because it works for me. I can only tell you to try it for yourself. And it's right here for all of those in the Cayman Islands down there at Kirk Freeport stores. And again, as we are aware, he says, that there are also candles as well. So we will be sharing the link. Definitely the link will be placed up for you to also to see it, for you to follow him on his Ted Green link. Or for those who are in Florida or anywhere else in the world, you can go directly to the source and get whatever fragrance. I would suggest you buy all of them. Christmas is coming. Yes, I said that. Christmas is coming. So you definitely want to get, thank you so much. You want to get your presents early. Now, I know we are pretty much have half an hour, and I promised you that I would share with you, and I welcome again anyone to come here to join me in this. But one of the questions that were posed yesterday, and I promised that I would address the topic of how boards and councils are chosen from my perspective, having had sat around the table and have had councils and boards under my remit in my former role from 21 to 2025. And each minister, there are some boards and councils, like for example, I'll speak to the mental health council. You have the MDC, you have, like, for example, not falling under health and home affairs, you would have like the various trade and business board. You hear the work permit board, the business staffing plan board. These are all easy because these are the boards that you hear about every day. The ministers who are responsible for those ministries, they know that they want to actually have persons on these boards to carry out the broad outcomes. You heard on the political stage that the big immigration reform is a big outcry. Now, in order to make that, you choose persons who either are versed in the line of immigration law, legal background does help, and who can bring to that subject matter. Let's keep it on immigration just for a little bit because it's easier to digest. What happens back in the day is that normally for fair, balanced representation, because cabinet now has 8 ministers, if we're fortunate enough to have a minister in cabinet from every electoral district, it would be good to have the same type of representation. Let's say a board member from West Bay, a board member from Georgetown, a board member from Bordentown, Northside, East End, and the sister islands. So that's 6. But there are 8 ministers. Sometimes the minister themselves, and it's only fair based on my previous experience, that if a particular board or council falls under that particular minister, it is only fair that they choose their chair. They can allow all the other caucus cabinet colleagues to have. But for fair, balanced representation, that's usually how it's done. What will happen sometimes is that the minister what, based on experience, would come in, let's say with their chair and a number of spots that they have already filled. How they use that litmus test is totally up to them. But what we know for a fact has been happening is that these positions were filled with those who were more than likely very close to them during the campaign, and persons that they know would actually carry out the broad outcomes and meet the needs as that remit of that board, because each board has a responsibility that aligns with a particular law. But like how you want to change this immigration reform, it makes life much easier that you have chosen a chair, a deputy chair, and other board members that actually align with what the minister and the sitting government of the day actually wants. So you would have persons come in and they would have, let's say, 9 spaces on a board. But maybe by the time it reaches to get your input as other caucus cabinet colleagues, there's only space for 2. Now, I don't know, and I can't speak for the sitting administration. Those positions are normally placed for either 1 year, 2 years. Sometimes when there's a change of a government, some board members, if it is not their government that gets the majority of the seat or in charge of the sitting cabinet, some would actually resign because they were placed there. Some members would resign because they were placed there by the former administration. But for a sense of continuity, it is advised that there's a small percentage be maintained if the minister or the sitting government feels that they can work and that there would be no issues with them carrying out their broad outcomes. What we have seen, and it's in the public space, is that people are saying that they deliberately place these people just to give them a token for either being on their platform, either being on their stage, and they bring nothing to the table. Now that's where we have a problem, and that's up for people's opinion. But at the end of the day, a lot of these boards has to be approved and supported by the sitting cabinet, starting off with caucus, where actually everyone is given an opportunity to have somebody on their side or from their side have a representation on the board. Now, we had a caller yesterday, no stranger to social media and of course podcasts and platforms like this, Johan. Johan comes with a very strong personality. He cannot be persuaded or pushed over. He's very vocal. He makes it known. He's not for sale. And one thing about accountability, some may think that he comes from too far left. Some may say he's too far right. Oh, he just can't deal with him. Let's put him on a board to shut him up. I'm sorry, that's not the Johan Moxham that I know. What I'm saying is these boards should not be interfered by their ministers. The ministers give directives. They have meetings and updates with their chairs. But a minister cannot legally, and let me use this word, should not persuade, interfere with any decision makings of any of those boards. Hence the independence of those boards, why you choose a chair. Now, it does make the relationship more harmonious if you keep getting copies of minutes from these meetings, if there are any action items or things that they need to take away, that the minister is privy to those. And that's where ex officios, which on these boards and councils, you will have 1 or 2 persons, it all depends on the composition of the law for what comprises of those boards and councils. You will have representations from the ministry or one of the senior policy advisors. Sometimes the chief officers or the deputy chief officers sit as ex officios, many times as secretary or just a figurehead. Now that's for fair and balance, so that the minister, that's a filter in between the minister and the board. The duty of that ex officio, having close working relationships with that minister, their duty is really to go back, update, and report to the minister should there be anything that is of importance, urgency, and likewise, the minister through that ex officio, many a times it's through their chief officer, then would communicate to the boards. Now that's it in the real world, how it is on book. I can only speak for how it should be done to avoid any accusation that a minister is politically interfering or being found with interfering with decisions being made. Now, should there be a case, they're always built into legislation where a minister, with support of their caucus and then cabinet, can give a directive. They shouldn't be doing it actually in isolation. That's room for trouble. If you want to do a directive to give a specific order to a particular board or council for full transparency, it is in the best interest of that minister, one, to prepare a paper from their ministry, bring it up in their caucus meetings where everybody on that government who are not ministers, their parliamentary secretaries and so forth, are in these caucus meetings, and it's handled by an agenda, and you hash it out there. And if you meet consensus and agreement, then based on decision hashed out in caucus, they will determine whether or not that decision then makes it to a cabinet paper. Nothing should end up on a cabinet paper unless it actually is supported by the majority of your caucus. Otherwise, there is room for discord. So when there's a directive like that, speaking about councils and boards, a minister running off on their own, giving these directives, they have pretty much flown the coop, and they can't expect other of their caucus and cabinet colleagues, if it goes sour, to have their back if they don't have what on pen and paper to show the paper trail where we came to this conclusion, we came to this decision. This decision that was made was supported in unison. When you lose that, it is a sign for trouble. And this is why minutes, being transparent, and getting the support of your caucus and cabinet, pretty much your caucus colleagues is imperative, because when that cabinet paper is done, those parliamentary secretaries, unless they're acting on the behalf of a minister, they're not in those cabinet meetings. So if there's any change of heart in between a caucus meeting and a paper going to a cabinet on a decision that was made in caucus, but by the time it get to cabinet, the discussions that are happening in cabinet change, by right, it should be deferred and go back again to caucus. So you got to understand the selection process. And this thing, as my position had it for the Ministry of Health, there is strict guidelines as to the expertise that is required, let's say, on the Pharmacy Council. I couldn't just get any and everybody on the Pharmacy Council. It makes sense to have somebody who comes with a medical background, definitely a pharmacy experience. And yes, it does help to have somebody with a legal mind, because there's laws and regulations. And for persons just picking up a piece of law or legislation the first time they get elected and do not even know what it looks like, I'm telling you, you're going to struggle. You're going to have a hard time, which means you actually have to depend a lot more on your ministerial staff. You have to read, you have to research, and it's okay to question. It's okay to question. You will have senior policy advisors there, and you give them a marching order through your chief officer, and build that relationship with your policy advisors, because they're the ones to make legislation. But at the end of the day, the key in all of these boards and councils should be agreed by everyone around the table, not to weaponize. Let me repeat that, not to weaponize these boards, but to work for the collective good of our Caymanians. That goes from pharmacy straight down to the Medical and Dental Council, straight down to the Trade and Business, to the Appeals Tribunal, the Trade and Business Tribunal Board. It's the same straight across the board. And it's only fair that the entire Cayman Islands feel that they're represented when you get not only gender balance, but electoral districts or district balance. In the cabinet that I was fortunate to be with, the District of Georgetown in there had 2 representatives. Many a time there was only 1 spot when it came to Georgetown. There was many a times I spoke with the then honorable member from Georgetown Central, Kenneth. He looked at me and he says, "You got any problem with this person?" I'm like, "No, we good." And he and I, just for the Georgetown representation, would agree, and we put that person or those persons forward. It's the same exercise from the members who sat in caucus for the District of West Bay. What I am speaking is based on experience and what transpired. However, I must say that when it came to choosing of chairpersons or chairman of these boards and councils, that was usually given to the minister responsible for those respective boards and councils. And the reason for that is being because they should have a very good working relationship with not only the sitting government of the day, but definitely with the minister who that board council will be carrying out the broad outcomes. And there's a lot of dialogue, which will be key. So the thing of, I'm going to get on Sabrina's platform because I want to get on the Cayman Airways board, that should not be your primary reason for supporting Sabrina or supporting your candidate. Because everyone sees how that worked out. And again, this is historical context to put it into perspective. I didn't have anything to do with Cayman Airways, but not to say that the minister then responsible for tourism did not have position or positions available that I would have been given the opportunity to have volunteered or nominated somebody from my liking. But there are times that those positions are already filled by, of course, first dibs gives to the minister responsible for these boards and councils. So for whatever was out there in the public's domain, I can see fairness thus far. A lot of changes have not been made as yet. Respectfully, when I took over in 2021, there were a number of the SAGC, one particular one, where they pretty much resigned when they got the results of the election. That's totally up to them. Some of them just remained, as we are seeing right now, because their expiry dates for their tenure is up to be renewed. Now, it's up to the minister when some of these positions come up for renewal, whether they so choose to renew the sitting members, or they may want to replace with some persons that they actually prefer to be there, or they may have a relationship with, or they may see will bring much more to the table than the current composition. But many a times, history will have it where once a particular government is not voted or is not the government, a lot of those board members were actually resigning from their positions. We're not seeing that as much anymore. People are tending to remain until they run out their expiry time or come and give it up to the minister to find out whether or not they would wish to keep them. Now, let's say there is a particular council or board that have questionable concerns. It is then up again with open communication and dialogue with the cabinet, with your caucus colleagues, to look at that from a holistic approach. But it's best, many a times, it's a little tricky with the statutory authorities, that you maintain those relationships with your board of directors. The minister has to maintain that relationship and to separate political interference. It is in your best interest to always go through your chief officer and or both the ex officio members that are placed on those boards, and do not do it direct. There is too much room for accusation of political interference. The civil servants are there as a buffer to protect you, and that's where the separation of powers come in. The elected arm, the operational arm. And it's good to use your chief officers, those ex officio members, and not go directly on your own. Sitting in on board meetings unless the minister is invited. Let me give a word to the wise. Don't do it as a sitting minister. You're setting yourself up. Do not do it. That's not your role. Separation of powers. There are minutes that you can ask for through your chief officer, through those ex officios, if something doesn't appear to be right. And let me tell you something. If you're as connected with the people on the ground and you are accessible as you should be, if there's anything not going right, people are going to find you as a minister. How you handle that information, if there's some disgruntlement or a performance of a particular board, it's up for you to validate, get the information, do your background checks. In one of your update meetings with your chief officer, bring these things to their attention and definitely keep on it. But it is not in your best interest to go directly to any chairman. Despite you having a good relationship, it is always in your best interest to have that filter with the operational arm within your ministry, and that's your chief officer, and then the ex officios that are placed on those boards that are actually minuted. So it is quite an interesting composition. Just placing people, there's always room for at least one or two members of civil society, meaning you don't have to be an expert in aviation to put someone who's never worked in aviation, let's say, on the board, because you have to see it from all levels of society. It doesn't mean that you have to be a doctor to sit on the Medical and Dental Council or the Health Insurance Act. There is always a room for one or two spaces for anyone to bring that level so that there's fair representation from everyone in society. So I hope that, that this gives some sort of context as to how the boards are actually chosen. Many a times, ministries at the request of the minister, should they want someone to serve on a board or council, you will get a call or an email from that respective ministry asking you to send your resume. Sometimes they may go as far as asking you for a police record. That's called due diligence, because anyone serving on these boards and councils are now also subject to, public scrutiny because of the role that you play. And that is the duty then of the ministry to let you know all of these things before you actually are allowed. And again, many a times it could be an outreach because you're up for consideration until that's actually approved by cabinet and it's actually minuted. Don't take it, because you all got to agree in caucus and cabinet before it is by belief, so to speak. So that may be increasing. Some people have asked me, well, how do I get on a board? I would love to contribute as an oversight. Do you understand the organization, how this particular administration is actually going to look at immigration reform, because they were either past members of a board or council? And what I can tell you, if the respective minister, ministry, sitting government have not reached out to you and you have an interest on serving, there's nothing wrong with you sending your resume directly to your representative, through your representative, especially if they're actually sitting around the table right now with the current administration. Speak to your representative, but I can assure you, you will be asked for a resume, and other due diligence will be asked, whether or not you would have any contracts with government, that sort of stuff that would actually probably make you be a conflict of interest. There's a reason for that, to be honest. So they're not just prying in your business, it's making sure that they're adhering with laws protecting you and, of course, protecting them. So for those of you who may have a skill set or you want to be a part of these decisions making, which is of national importance, sitting on any board, people shouldn't just look at it like I'm there because Mr. Andre called me, the premier called me, I'm from that area. No, you have a national responsibility. And even though it should be an honor to serve, it's a noble calling to be very honest, because you can change the trajectory of legislation. Many a times the recommendations from these boards and councils to the government, the minister, will actually impact change in legislation. So don't just look at it as a board that is a stipend that probably will be good pocket change for you. Look at the picture of what it's like serving on a board and council and what difference you're making in the quality of life and the contribution to your country, and not necessarily just the stipend. It should be looked at as one that for people who want to give back, some do take a lot of time, to be honest, but it is so rewarding when you can serve on some of these boards and see the impact of change that you can make for future generations to come. We have seen that based on the recommendations for the topical conversation right now as it deals with minimum wage. And it will be no different in regards to immigration reform. We have seen the impact these boards, councils, and advisory councils can make, even with the STEP survey, the Pharmacy Act, which has taken so long. And due to public engagement and opening that up at the end of the day is why it is good to invite industry stakeholders who are dealing with these things every day, so that when it gets down on the floor of Parliament, you're not just hearing it for the first time, but there would be people in the industry who would be impacted that will say, no, I went to a lunch and learn. Oh, no, I went to this town hall meeting and this is what was said. Oh, actually, I see my recommendation reflected in this piece of legislation. So it is always good to keep the lines of communication open, but that is not mean that you, the general public, should just sit back, relax, and say, they got it. Your input is valuable, and it's not at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it is not good to just squeal once the legislation in place. Your voice does matters, and this is why we have this platform here. But I know today has been a very informative show. I'm sorry if we went over with our guests, but I'm quite sure based on the feedback, everybody enjoyed it. It is 6:30 and I have just concluded my second day pretty much here in studio by myself and with you, every one of you. I want to thank every one of you for showing up today. And it has honestly been a pleasure bringing you another edition of Sabrina Speaks right here on cmrtv.com, definitely from our social media pages. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow, where we will be speaking with Mr. Roy Bodden. And I'm so looking forward to that as well, to share about his upcoming, his launch. We are going to be speaking with him in detail, and it's very inspiring conversation and what this book entails.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, K-Man, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.